Hey guys, welcome back to Churro for Your Thoughts. I am here with Aubrey, who is just such a delight. Say hi, Aubrey.
Hello.
Aubrey and I met through a mutual friend of ours a few years ago. It's been like, what, 3 years now? Maybe.
Yeah, I want to say 3 years.
Maybe longer. And our friend, who is not really a Disney girly, was like, you guys are gonna get along like really well. And I remember my first impression was Aubrey showing me her Mickey Mouse earrings. And I was like, okay, I see what Michaela's.
We can vibe. We can vibe.
Yeah, we're good. So that's how we met, and it's just been, it was love at first sight.
Yes, Disney love at first sight, mother love. It was all the things.
Yeah.
Of course, you weren't a mom yet, but I think you were pregnant.
Yeah, I was newly pregnant when I met you. I had just found out like a few weeks before, maybe. So yeah. I was going through it, but
you were in all the feels. All the feels.
Yeah. And Aubrey also has a Disney page as well. It is about that magic, right?
Yes.
I know you've changed it. Okay.
Yep.
Well, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to everybody and just kind of who you are, about your page, where your love for Disney came from? That would be awesome.
Yeah. So I would say that my love for Disney started at a very, very young age. My parents started taking us, I want to say I was maybe 2, maybe younger, for my first time, and then we just consistently went as I was growing up. For a long time, we went almost every summer, and then, we got into high school and it dwindled a little bit, but then we would always do like the full shebang. You're like staying for a week, staying at the hotels, doing the things, because life was sweet in the 90s.
Yes, true. That's how my family was, because I'm from Utah, and so we would save up, and then that was our big vacation, which I feel like sometimes locals don't understand that as much.
They don't understand it. Yeah. So sorry,
were your parents big Disney fans, or did they just start taking you guys like because they had kids?
I think they were Disney fans. Like they've always taken us to see the Disney movies. My parents love going to the parks as well still. So I think the obsession took on another like layer with my sisters and I, and me especially. Like my sisters all love it, but like we grew up going with our cousins, and so like it's just some of my best childhood memories is with my favorite cousins that we would go with, and it was such a good time. So I think it just like they liked it, and their like level was here, and we went up to like here as the cousins. The obsession became stronger.
It's like crack. I wouldn't know, but I've heard.
I just attribute it to anything that's like an addiction.
Yeah,
it's there. So
yeah,
but then so then it's just like continued to grow throughout my life, and I've just loved the escape of reality. I love the magic that the parks bring and the feelings, and then like now sharing that time with my kids has been super duper magical. And then we actually were living in Miami for a while after I got married, and we became pass holders. And so I was a Walt Disney World pass holder for a year, and that was probably the best year of my life because we were going once a month at least, if not 2 or 3 times, depending on what we were doing and who was in town.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of Disney World. That just brings me so much joy.
Yeah.
Disneyland I would consider my home park because it's where we grew up going to.
Yeah.
So, and then I started my page, my Disney page specifically. I started it when I became a travel agent that specializes in Disney. Currently, I am not a travel agent anymore, and my page has shifted to more like finding the magic in everyday life and your little things, but also a lot of the parks, and so it's a lot of magic. But I'm also leaning a lot into Universal Studios lately as well with the new Epic Universe coming out. We're hoping to get there at the end of the year.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm dying because my kids are at the perfect age India loves Harry Potter. That's my daughter. And
she loves How to Train Your Dragon.
She loves How to Train Your Dragon. And then my son loves Mario. And there's the Super Nintendo World with the Donkey Kong section in it. So, because we were going to try and take him to the Hollywood one. But then when this one had Donkey Kong, we're like, well, we may as well just save up and go big or go home, you know?
Okay, funny story about that, though, because... So how does Ross say Mario?
He says Mario.
Mario. Yeah, so my husband, Miguel, which you know, I have a couple friends named Aubrey, and he gets confused, and he's really bad with last names, and so he refers to you as the Mario Aubrey.
I'm the Mario Aubrey.
Mario? I'm like, yes, that's the one.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
Because last October, Ross was it he Mario for Halloween? So you were telling me all about it, how excited he was. Anyway, that's just kind of a random side note. But yeah, Universal is next level, and we want to save up and go in a couple of years as well. So maybe we'll have to incorporate.
Definitely let little boy get a little older, just because their rides are that's the thing. I love Universal. It's not as kid friendly, and that's just a fact. I think everybody knows that, you know.
Yeah.
So there's less for them to do, but I think that this new section was a step in the right direction. With like a lot of, even if they can't do the big rides, there's a lot of things just to see and walk around and explore in the new park. So I don't know, Disney better step it up.
I think we need to do an episode about. I have a lot of thoughts.
Oh, we have so many Disney opinions to share.
That's a good segue because, like, disclaimer, Aubrey and I already recorded this, and then the audio was garbage. So, re-recording this, some moments might seem a little, not scripted, but, like, they've happened before. We've talked about this before. Yeah.
We know what we're saying.
Exactly. So, but, last time we recorded this, you were talking about how even though you've been, like, sometimes people hear Disney adult and they think that you're just like a sim for Disney and like Disney can do no wrong. And I think it's the opposite. I think the bigger of a fan you are and the longer you've been a fan, the more opinionated you are. And you and I both have a lot of opinions about recent changes at Disneyland, and that's what we wanted to talk about today.
Yes, let's get into it.
Yes. So Tiana's Bayou. It has now replaced Splash Mountain in Disneyland and Disney World. So we don't have Splash Mountain here anymore in the States. And overall, it seems like the rollout of the ride was successful, and people have accepted the fact that Splash Mountain isn't around anymore. And there are a lot of really great things about this change that has happened, but we also feel like maybe it was a bit rushed, or maybe the budget wasn't there to like fully take this change to the next level where it needed to be. So I kind of wanted to start with like the beginning of this. So how big of a Splash Mountain fan were you when this announcement came?
Yeah, I mean, big fan. However, I understood the change. And I was actually one of the people early on I was defending it. But I loved Splash Mountain. I loved Zippity Doo Dah is one of the absolute best songs in the world ever written. It brings the amount of joy, and like I've never like come off that ride being like, that wasn't worth it. You know, you go on that ride and it was so fun, and it just brought like there was a level of joy that song at the end, when you finished the big drop and you're going around that corner and there's the animals doing the thing, and then Bri Rabbit is back in his house and he's happy to be home, you know, and it's like, oh, it's almost a little bit like Wizard of Oz-ish, you know, like there's no place like home. He's happy, and so I loved it, and I understood why it was no longer working.
Yeah.
like, I get why it didn't fit with the Disney IPs that they were going with and all of that type of stuff. So I'm a big fan, loved it.
Yeah. Yes to all of those. I think it really speaks to how incredible the ride was, that the characters, although they were Disney characters technically, they weren't really well-known characters. They weren't ones that Disney was pushing out. And so really, for the ride to have done as well as it did with these lesser-known characters, I think really speaks to the storyline, the message of it, the music, like you mentioned. Zippity Doo Dah is still like an anthem of Disney, of the Disney parks. If you hear that, you're thinking Disneyland or Disney World. So,
yes, it takes you straight to Disneyland specifically. Like, it is a Disneyland staple, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, I guess I should say, like, Disney parks staple, because there's some songs that aren't part of Disney movies, and if you've never been to the park, you don't really know why it's there, but what it brings you to is Disney parks.
Yeah, exactly. So the legacy of Splash Mountain is one, I think it will stick around for a really long time. That being said, like you said, it didn't really line up anymore with the direction Disney's headed, and from a more technical standpoint, I think the ride was getting a little run down as well.
For sure. The animatronics were rough.
Yeah. So I understand that they were feeling like this area of the park needed a refresh. Now, were you excited when you heard what they were planning on replacing it with?
I was so excited. I was ridiculously excited because I was like, yes, it's the perfect thing. It's right by New Orleans Square. It's, you know, it's going to have, and when they announced that there was going to be like the Tiana's restaurant was going to be right next to it, it fit, it worked. Or it's not right next to it. Technically, it's by Haunted Mansion, but Haunted Mansion is in New Orleans Square as well. You know, so it's like, it just really worked into the transition of turning, you know, there's the Tiana's restaurant, and then you get to the Haunted Mansion, and then you turn that corner and you're getting into Critter Country, but it still all made sense as to why it like flowed. So the flow of the parks was seamless, and I was so excited. I thought it had so much potential for a really cool telling of Princess and the Frog.
This is like heavy foreshadowing right now.
Yeah.
I thought it had so much potential.
It had so much potential. The storyline had so much potential. And honestly, like, we can fix it. Like, we've discussed this, and what we said last time, we can fix this ride.
Yeah. Last time we recorded, Aubrey and I like replanned the whole ride to perfection.
We rehashed it.
It was amazing. It was like improv. Boom, boom. You had an idea. I had an idea. And like, I just don't understand why the Imagineers haven't reached out. So,
it's kind of rude.
Yeah,
so.
A little bit. One thing I want to say with the announcement, it came during 2020, I believe, which was when there was a lot of like the whole BLM movement, and a lot of people were saying that this change was just for Disney to be more woke. And
not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, first of all.
Woke, not bad.
Yeah. From a completely non-political point of view, Princess and the Frog is arguably the best Disney princess movie. It's definitely up there. And I think it's long overdue for receiving praise, because I do think it gets overlooked. And so, yes, not only does it fit into the theming of the area and bring some more diversity to the park, but it's a worthy film to take that place. It has fantastic characters. The music, honestly, is my favorite. The characters are hilarious and heartwarming, and so that's what I'm going to throw out there for anyone that's like, they just did it because of the political landscape. It's like, well, maybe, but
But it was the right thing. Like, it fits. It's the right... If you are going to change for something, then that was the right pick.
Totally. Yeah. So, with the whole rollout of this ride, Disney had released the planned storyline for the ride, along with an announcement that there was going to be a Disney Plus series. And then when Aubrey and I rode the ride for the first time, it wasn't together, but we discussed later. The storyline was not what Disney had announced. Mm-hmm. And it was very confusing. I felt like I was being gaslit a little bit. Yeah. So we did some research, and we were able to find the original announcement on like the Disney Parks blog where they announced what the storyline would be, and there was no update from there, right?
No, there was no update. They didn't ever... Sorry, I had to close my window.
Oh, you're fine.
They didn't ever say that it was changing. I mean, like, obviously something always changes when they're like formulating the plan, but I feel like in order to announce something, it needs to be pretty solid. Mm-hmm. Like, that needs to be
especially
the plan.
A change this big.
When you're changing something like historically big with Disney, you know? And yeah, so the storyline was that we were helping Tiana look for a special ingredient for her restaurant, essentially. And there was going to be all these new characters added, apparently, that were going to tie in with the Disney Plus series that was supposed to be coming out. And that all changed. And they actually just barely, a few weeks ago, announced that the Tiana's animated series was no longer coming to Disney.
Oh, was it that recent? It was just a few weeks ago.
I feel like, well, maybe when we recorded it the first time, it was only a few weeks ago, so maybe like a couple months.
But still, the ride's been out for a while now.
Yeah.
So
and I'm actually really sad about that, because I do think that maybe that series would have lended to the storyline, and it maybe would have made me like the storyline a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I will say something that I was thinking about since we last recorded was it's a fun concept to have a Disney Plus series that provides context to a ride, but like that's a lot of homework for them to expect like
it's a little
Disney goer to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our number one critique when we both rode the ride for the first time. It was very confusing to us. The storyline was a little abstract and a little hard to follow on your first ride through. I think that's something, I don't know, that to me that's like the foundation of a ride. Going into it, like, what's the story that they're telling? We see that with every ride and how it's almost gotten more complex too. But even with older rides like Indiana Jones, they're setting the stage right from the beginning. With
you know what you're doing. And here's the thing, I will admit, I went through the Fast Pass line for the first time. I don't know if you did. So maybe there was more context in the line that through like pictures and stuff that you were looking for, but I didn't see it. We stopped and looked at everything that was new. And we did see pictures of the new people and the new characters that I was expecting to see in this ride and then didn't see them.
Yeah.
But so when they switched the storyline to apparently now you're looking for a special sound for the band at Tiana's Bayou. Which I didn't know that until all of it. I didn't know that until it was just very chaotic ride for me.
yeah. Well, tell everybody what happened the first time you wrote it, because this is a fantastic story.
Yeah. So I made a reel that can like help visually. So what we are going through the line and we're seeing, and like, let me put some old context. You didn't have to wear a poncho for Splash Mountain. It was not necessary to be covered in ponchos.
Family used to roast families that would come prepped with ponchos. We were like,
yes,
look at these people over here.
It's not that bad, right? So we're going through the line, and this is my very first time writing it, and I believe I believe my cousin who was with me, I think she had rode it. No, I don't think she rode it before either. I think this was both of our first times.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going through, and I'm like, look at all of these people in ponchos. Like, almost everybody had a poncho. And I was like, why is she's like, oh, I heard you get a little bit more wet in this one. Like, you do get wet. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had forced her to go in the morning. She didn't want to go in the morning because she didn't want to be wet all day. And I was like, okay, well, I'll get in front if we are in the front, whatever. So we're at the very front of the line, and literally everyone is gearing up with ponchos. Okay, and I'm looking around, and I looked at her, and I was like, were mistakes made? And she's like, I think mistakes were made. So she has a waterproof jacket on with her. So she puts that on and gets her hood, and she's in the second row. I'm in the very first row, and at Disneyland, you're sitting vertically. There's no side-by-sides like in Disney World.
Yeah.
So I'm the only person in the front, and we start going, and it's the beginning part they did very cute, where it used to be like you were seeing little creatures' homes. You're going through like essentially a garden, and Lewis is there, and then there's like the cutest like Lewis fruit and veggie statue looking thing on the left. So that part I actually really, really liked, when you're turning that corner and you see the water tower and everything, and then you turn the corner, and we went down the first one, and down the first one I got decently wet, and I was like, okay, that's more than usual. And then we turned, and all of a sudden everything's going so fast. I mean, Tiana's right here, and we zoomed past her, and I was like, what is going on? And we're going down and around, and it is so fast, and so much water is like just plummeting into my boat.
The water in your video is like almost to the top of the lock.
Yes.
It's flowing over onto the like sides of the ride. It's insane how full it is.
It is crazy. So then we're literally, and then you do that one where it's a double one where you go whoosh whoosh. That I was done for. At that point I'm done.
Is that the one inside that takes you to the laughing place?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you're going to what used to be the laughing place, I'm just absolutely soaked by then. So then I'm laughing so hard. The boat's moving so fast. Tiana's over here. There's frogs over here that are suddenly my size. I mean, it was the most chaotic experience. And I literally looked at my cousin and I turned around and I was like, what is going on? And she said, I have no idea. And we just both were like, what is happening right now? I don't understand. So then all of a sudden we're going up the ramp, and it's Mama Odie, and then the big drop, and then you go past Tiana's restaurant, and then it's over. No. So I mean, I have so much more to say, but I'll let you give your first time experience as well.
No, I mean, that was perfect. That yours was way funnier than mine. Like, I think it really seems like they build up the water a lot more, and I don't know if that's to make the ride move faster, which then helps the queue move faster. I don't know if it was like a stylistic choice that they were like, this fits, like, I don't know what they were thinking.
Were they wanting it to be more intense, and they weren't going to actually change the ride at all, so then they're like, let's just fill it up with blue water.
I don't know. It's crazy. So yeah, my first time, I had heard from people that you did get really wet, and so luckily I had a poncho with me. I also ended up well,
I think I went before you, actually.
Yeah, you did. Last time I rode like actual Splash Mountain, though, this is a little side story that's really humiliating. I put my poncho on incorrectly. I put my head through my arm, and I was like, man, this poncho was like really tight. I ended up getting drenched, and I didn't realize until I got off, and my mom and my sisters were dying laughing at me. Anyway, this time I got the poncho on the right way. And like, first impressions were pretty good. Walking through the line, it wasn't super crowded, so I didn't have a lot of time to linger and see everything. And I also ended up in the front row, the front seat of the log, which is not ideal. My first impression was it didn't look as good as I was expecting it to. and I was very confused by the story. Those were my two main observations. I don't really know what else to say beyond that. I mean, we can dive into what we think went wrong there, but I don't feel like mine was as chaotic as your.
Yeah, mine was pure chaos. I cannot even.
Yeah,
it's just chaos.
So, like, where do we go from here?
So, I mean, I think I want to explain the reasons as to what I didn't like about the storyline. Even like having because I recorded the entire ride pretty much because I wanted to have content for, But I mean, once again, if you watch the reel that I made, it's the most chaotic thing ever because I have no idea what's happening. But so some of the things I want to touch on the things that disappointed was, number one, the lack of conflict. I think we talked about this a lot last time.
I think peril.
We really harped on the lack of conflict.
And peril was the word that you used.
Peril, yes. Yeah. There was no, and I understand that this is a little bit more of a kid ride out of all of the like bigger rides that are there. And maybe they didn't want to make it too scary. But the lack of Dr. Facilier was really upsetting because